One second, hopefully here we go. Welcome to Shoot the Defence. It's a Manchester United special on FNX brought to you by My Sportswear, Youth Energy and Save Association. I'm your host, Stel, and I'm joined by none other than Rhodri Giggs and the returning Paul Parker. Rod, you well, mate?
Yeah, I'm good, mate. Yourself? Bit tired from last
Yeah,
night,
great.
but alright.
How much sleep did you get?
Well, I went to sleep about 12:30 and I got up at dead on 5. So as he was just in the ring, so yeah, I got back to sleep and woke up about 8. So I'll be alright. I'm reeling, but I'm alright.
Got coffee there somewhere.
Yeah.
Great stuff, great stuff. And Paul, welcome back, mate. It's been a fair few weeks that you've been on last. How you been?
I've been not too bad, to be perfectly honest. I've just been jaunting about a bit. I've been around Europe and I've come back, but I've been around Asia and I've come back last week, and then I'm back at some point this week once I can get a flight back to the UK for 2-3 weeks.
Excellent, excellent,
Mm.
wonderful. Um, well, we've got a few topics to discuss tonight, so let's get started with United's 2-0 win over Leicester City. Paul, it was 2-0, could have been three. It's three wins, three clean sheets, top of the league. So far, so good.
Yeah, I think you have to say that, and I've always been put across as a little bit critical, but when you look at it, again, I will say it's not the most exciting as what we'd expect. The first game against West Ham was a little bit going back in time when you saw all the pace out wide and how they dominated from wide areas. But at the moment, Manchester United have been very efficient in what they've done. It seems like every time a team looks like they're going to lift, Manchester United lift prior to them lifting. And if a team wants to get physical, Manchester United are more than physical to deal with it. And you have to say this United side look like a side that are not going to concede goals, because as good as the team is, going forward, it's moment in time and being clinical, they all defend as well. They don't look like a side who are gonna concede goals. And look at them now, play. The goals they've scored and how many they've conceded, and the fact of how many they look like conceding tells you a story how Manchester United's season looked like it's going to go. And the way with De Gea in goal as well, you just believe that if he was going to get a shot, there's a very good chance he could save it.
That's right. That's right. I mean, you mentioned clean sheets, and then when you look at the United back line, it's hardly Parker, Pallister, Bruce, and Owen. That back four, it actually looks makeshift, doesn't it? But they've actually done really well.
They have done very well. You have to look at Phil Jones. I think he was there. He was the one on the end of everyone's tongue who they were looking to be going this summer. And you look at the moment in time, is that you have to say he hasn't really put a foot wrong. Where everyone was looking for him, he hasn't put a foot wrong. Him and Smalling together, there was always question marks about the pair of them. And Mourinho, I think, has surprised everybody by going down the road of Phil Jones. And at the moment, he can't be faulted in that decision, because Phil Jones has done very, very well. The signing of another centre half might have been the one that made a difference, to kick at the bottom. And it seems like at the moment he's scared of making a mistake, and that fear of making a mistake and being out of the team is carrying him along at the moment in time, because he's playing very, very well.
That's right, absolutely. And Blint has been superb at left back, hasn't he?
He has been good. Everyone's been talking, about United and it maybe needing fullbacks, but more so about a left back because of Shaw and Damian. I've always been a fan of David. But every time he's come, he doesn't hardly give the ball away. Okay, he's not going to be dominating and up like a kind of a wing back. It's not his game, but you've got someone who's steady and consistent. And I just believe that the old saying was that games start, and you start your build-up play from fullback positions. And more than anything, if you're a fullback and you take your defensive responsibilities seriously, then that helps in an efficient back four, and that's what Manchester United have got. If you've got someone who's going to squeeze on and get forward and do something in the final third, then you've got Valencia on the right hand side. But when Blint does get in those areas in the final third, he's a very good crosser of the ball as well.
That's right, that's right. And Rod, we knew exactly how Leicester would set themselves up because they've been playing this system for practically 3 seasons. Would you say this was United's, I don't know, trickiest test so far from a tactical perspective?
Um, yes, possibly. Leicester, even though they didn't do as well as they did, obviously, when they won the league last year, they're still a dangerous side, and with the signings they've made, and with Vardy up top, they're a dangerous opposition. So it was probably the trickiest opposition, but you know we still come through with flying colours and got the result we needed.
I was very impressed by the way that they nullified the threat of Jamie Vardy. It just seems that we knew what to expect from them, you know, these diagonal balls and for him to run onto it. But Bayern Jones marshalled him very well, and I think they gave him a couple of kicks as well, which he didn't like.
Yeah, it's what you've got to do. You've got to be strong with them. You've got to know you're there, and they've obviously been tactically told what to do by Jose Mourinho, and they've done a good job and kept him quiet because he is a live wire, Jamie Vardy. He's a dangerous lad, and he's a great finisher as we've seen. So yeah, they've done a good job, and like Paul says, they've started really well. You know, if we look back in history, the great teams have always had a pair: Keown, Adams, Pallister, Bruce, Vidic, Ferdinand, Terry Carvalho. So you know, we need a good. It looks like it got a good partnership last year with Rojo and Bailly, but you know, like Paul said, Phil Jones done brilliant since the league started.
Thing is, Rod, you always say, you know, pace kills. So how do you handle someone like Jamie Vardy? Do you have to match him like for like in terms of someone that's quick on their feet?
Say again, mate. You cut off then.
Well, when you've got someone like Jamie Vardy who's quite rapid, you say yourself, pace kills. So is the best way to kind of fend him off is to go like for like in terms of getting someone that's just as quick, if not quicker? Is that the only way?
Well, there's many ways you can do it. You can go tight. You can cut the space in from behind and drop deep, or you put pressure on the ball to stop the balls getting to him. You know, there's a number of ways that you can do it, but they nullified everything on Saturday, and they did a good job, like I said.
Absolutely. Well, gents, as you guys know, United are a different animal these days. They're more direct, creative, dynamic. And the thing is, at no point they actually think that it's going to be one of those games where we won't break the door down eventually, even when Lukaku's penalty was just saved. What do you guys make of the actual the team spirit and whatnot at the moment, Rod?
Mate, you cut off again then.
Damn internet. No, I just said, you know, what do you make of the team spirit at the moment? It just seems that we were knocking on the door, even with the penalty miss. It just didn't seem that the heads dropped.
Well, you can see it building from the good work he did last year. Breeds a good environment, and you know, Lukaku's coming. He's close to Pogba. It seemed like a close group, and you know, Mourinho's been here before. He needs everyone working in the same direction. And you know, like I said, they've had a great start. We just need to kick on now and perform a little bit better, and just trying to get better and keep that consistency.
Great stuff. And Paul, how do you compare this United in terms of team spirit to the one that you played in?
Oh, that's a difficult one to answer in that sense because of the now and then scenario. But I would say, if you're winning games of football and you're playing well, doesn't matter what anybody says. There's always going to be confidence, regardless of what anything else that people think. And we have to say there's only been 3 games gone, and they won them. And you look at how they were last season. United were just winning games, or they were drawing games, sloppy draws. So if there was any confidence there, no one would even talk about it because of the way United were playing and the results they were getting. The moment you're winning games of football and you're winning them emphatically, as Manchester United are, people will talk about good confidence because of the way you're winning games of football. So as I look at it now in that team, you have to believe there is a confidence is high because there's no greater time to be playing for Manchester United when you're winning games and you're winning them in the fashion they are at the moment. It's a great place, a great buzz to be, great buzz around the place, I should say. You walk around Manchester, everything's on a high. People are believing that Manchester United are going to win another title. There is no better feeling, and the bigger the buzz you get is from the other side of Manchester as well. Is that things are a little bit down as well on that side of it because United are doing so well. So that makes you feel even better when you're in a in a 2-horse town and you're the better horse at the moment in time.
That's right. And the thing is, I look at that 94 team that obviously you so famously play for, and I look at people like Brian Robson, Brian McClare, Mark Hughes, Cantona, yourself, you know, Bruce Pallister, Schmeichel, guys that could handle themselves. And I look at this United team, and you know they look as if they can handle themselves as well. I guess that when you're in the tunnel, before the game. That's effectively one part of the battle won at the end of the day, because the opposition looks at you like, oh God, we're playing against these lot this week.
Yeah, and then what you do as a player as well, you look at the players in front of you, you look at the players behind you, and you look at them and you say to yourself, you don't see yourself getting beat. And that was my first thing I felt when I first went to United. I look who was leading me out when I went onto the pitch, and I never believed I was ever going to get beat because it was Brian Robson. You just didn't think you was ever going to lose a game. And that's the kind of feeling you got. And you look at this United team, and you're saying the players look after themselves. You have to look at Mourinho when he had the Chelsea team. And how many times did you sit there on a Saturday or a Sunday watching a game and you see Chelsea 1-0 down and you think to yourself, you never ever believed that Chelsea was going to lose. You always believed they was going to score a goal. And they did. And then all of a sudden they'll get that next goal. And that's what happens when the position they're in. You don't believe you're going to get beat. And that's the kind of team that Mourinho teams he builds. And that's what he's done at this moment in time. And everyone's throwing every superstar up and names up. But I think even Rhodri knows that if a player comes up, you know now the kind of player that Mourinho wants, as great as it would have been for Manchester United so many years ago in the style they played. You look at some of the names that have been mentioned and you shake your head and you go, no, he's not a Mourinho player. Yes, he's a Manchester United player of what we expected prior to Mourinho, but now there's a certain brand of player that Mourinho signs and it suits his style. But when you get these kind of names come up and they look great, great on the team sheet and call it razzmatazz, you go to yourself, you look at a few little you look at the ways they play and you say to yourself, that doesn't suit Mourinho and what he wants at Manchester United. So so that's the line they're going down at the moment, and it just looks good. And as you said at the top there, Stel, is that a lot of those players in tunnels must turn around and then see these monster of men standing next to them, a collective monsters, and just go, we have to get ourselves in front here. Then we have to work from there, because you just know if you don't get your nose in front of this team, it's going to be very, very difficult to get back. Easily said, but I think it's a definite fact with a top Mourinho side. If you go a goal behind them, you have to work physically and mentally hard to get yourself back into a game.
That's right. It just seems like he's drummed that into him already. We always knew that he needed a season to see which players had that testicular fortitude, so to speak. And it seems like he knows what he wants, and he's getting the best out of him at the moment. But if we go back to the game, and there's two debatable goals. One was given offside, and the other one was obviously not given offside. Did the referees' assistants get them right, or did they get them wrong? What do you guys reckon, Rod?
Well, the first one obviously was a corner. So if you was a Leicester manager, Leicester player, you'd be disappointed to go to Old Trafford, keep it tight, and lose by a corner. Lose a goal by a corner. So, but the second one, he's offside. His foot's offside. So it's one of them that can go either way. Sometimes they go for you, sometimes they don't. We'll take it. They're never going to get back in the game. When that second goal goes in, you can just relax and because when it's 1-0, you're still a bit edgy, still a bit nervous. Anything can happen. So once that second one went in, you could see him relax a little bit more, and then just the game was done.
And what about Mata's goal? Do you think that was off?
It's like I said. It's just that one could have been easily put onside, and the one could have been called offside. We're talking about inches here. So you say go with the attacker. They've gone with the attacker one and they've not gone with the attacker the other. So it's 50-50. Like referees, there's no consistency. So you just have to expect these things to happen.
And Paul, what do you think? Because a couple of weeks ago, we saw the incident with Lacazette against Stoke, and I know a certain TV channel was dissecting it and sticking it under the microscope and seeing whether they could find out of it. What did you make of both goals? Because they both seem very similar in the sense that, a certain body part was offside, not the whole body, and the daylight and whatever rule they decide to change these days, or law.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know exactly. I don't think anyone really knows the ruling. I think it's about a matter of just being there, and depends on the referee you get on the day. But I think you have to say, if you live by the sword, you die by the sword, in the sense of if you come there to sit and invite pressure on yourselves as defenders, as a team, what happens in the end of you're always looking for that decision to get the offside, to play the offside. Sooner or later, that man on the touchline, he's going to switch off. He's going to something's going to happen. His mind's going to drift off somewhere else because he's human, and he's going to miss something if you constantly keep allowing it. And that's what sometimes happens. And you have to look at it. If it is just by a foot, if it is a thickness of a shirt, I think as a defender, you have to think to yourself, when you look at it back after, if I'd have stepped back half a yard and actually defended first rather than looking to play someone offside, then that incident wouldn't have happened. And especially when you go into somewhere like Old Trafford as well, with like 68,000 Manchester United fans there, inside of that 70-odd thousand stadium, then in the end of the day, there's every chance that some decisions are going to go against you. Again, because of human nature and because of the pressures on referees. So when you look at it, Manchester United deserve to win the game. And if you put so much into trying to win the game, I think you're due a little bit of luck sometimes.
Yeah, that's right. I think the funny thing about this is that the Premier League have completely banned clubs from doing patterns on the pitch, and I've asked them just to do horizontal stripes. And apparently the referees or assistant referees are meant to use that as like a guideline as to how to read whether a player is offside or not. But Matt's one, his arm was offside, and apparently the law says that if a body part where you can score with is offside, then it's offside, but you can't score with your hands. So it's strange. You guys are right. These laws are just, I don't know. I don't think anyone understands them really. But let's move on to the substitutions. Do you guys think that it's actually any coincidence that double substitutions have actually changed the complexity of every game so far, Rod?
No, not at all. Since the season started, he started with Rashford, and Marshall's come on and scored, and the quality they've got now on the bench, he could start with a number of different options, but he likes to stay with the same team, which I like, but he's obviously changed Marshall because he's done really, really well since he's come on in the last two games, so he's given the opportunity. And with Rashford coming on with 20 minutes to go, he showed a great attitude and got himself a goal. So, Paul will tell you, when you've got quality in the squad, even training, it's that intense. So when you're coming up against other teams, it's them games become easy. So, and that's the quality that they're getting now, all across the squad, and a couple more added. And it's just looking bright at the minute.
That's right. Paul, what do you reckon?
Well, I mean, at the end of the day, I think Mourinho's gone back to how he's been successful, is continuity. The team almost picks itself week in, week out. The two centre-halves, he'll keep them, and you can't beat when you've got two centre-halves who play week in, week out. United's strengths in their great times have always been about two centre-halves, who play together almost week in, week out. And continuity wins you more than you lose. And if you're a side that's struggling, continuity will get you out of trouble rather than keep adding and taking away all the time. As we saw last season with Manchester United, that was the biggest problem. So this season, during the pre-season, he knows what he wants, the team he wants to put out most times, and he knows the players who he can pull in and pull out, which are not going to really weaken the team. So when you've got the likes of Rashford and Martial, and he's saying to himself, I don't really want to play them both together, but I'm going to do this. It makes a difference as well. When they come on and they're a part of it. Now, then he started the game with Martial, who's come off the bench in previous ones, and then he switches him with Rashford, and also that lifts him a bit. But the great thing is for Mourinho is while he's winning games of football, and everyone, as Rhodri just mentioned, is saying, got a great bench, no one's ever going to be knocking on his door asking why they're not starting, because when you're winning games of football, as a footballer, the most embarrassing thing you can go and do is knock on the manager's door when you're winning games so emphatically and ask why you're not in the team. So it makes your job as a manager a lot easier when you're in the situation they are. Playing well and winning games, it can't be beaten. And more than anything, the manager enjoys it more than most because of he's got to where he wants to be. And every player he looks at wants to be a part of that 11, because there's, again, I'll say, and I use those words, there's no better place to be in football than at Old Trafford when you're chasing down a Premier League title.
That's right, and I think it's a breath of fresh air knowing that Ander Herrera was on the touchline geeing the players on. That's something that Mourinho did after one of the press conferences. at the weekend. He's acting like a little cheerleader, which is quite good.
That just shows you. Sorry, Paul. That just shows you the mentality in the squad. They're all together, and they're all into. If they don't start, then obviously they'll be upset. But they're not too upset where they cause upheaval in the squad. They'll get on with it, and then when they get the chance, they've got to perform.
Yeah. I think you're right, mate. Look, the games are going to come thick and fast eventually, and you need the squad. Mourinho knows it.
Exactly. At the minute, it's just one game a week. When them games start coming, like Paul said, I don't think he'll change the back four as much. But the other areas in the squad, they can mix and match, and they've got a great squad. So yeah, them players will get game time.
Yeah, so far so good. Well, the summer's worst kept secret is finally out of the bag when Ibrahimovic re-signed for United. Paul, it wasn't a massive surprise, was it? But he's a great option to have.
Yes, in certain ways. But you look at the way United are playing now, and I don't think that United would be what they are now as a team if Ibrahimovic was playing, because what they've got threats now in behind the opponents. They've got a centre forward now in Lukaku, who the centre halves know can and wants to run behind. Everyone knew before we United that Ibrahimovic, as much as he wanted to, couldn't run behind. So there's only one threat. So I think Lukaku adds something which United fans are enjoying. There's a threat behind from a centre forward. There's a threats behind from wide areas. So there's 2 or 3 pronged attack now, rather than just being very static and relying on Rashford to run behind. So him coming back makes a difference. Is him coming back, is he going to settle, or is he going to settle for just being on the bench? I don't think so. I think somewhere along the line, there has to be some way of him playing games. So I wonder, when it comes to Champions League, the crux of the Champions League after the group stages, and hopefully Manchester United are in the knockout stages, is Mourinho going to be looking at maybe Ibrahimovic coming in and playing those games because of his experience and his ability, his technical ability in the big games and when it matters, rather than Lukaku, who plays in a different way that might not really suit Champions League football.
That's a fair point. That's a very fair point. I'm just going to flip it a little bit, because I seem to remember the game against Middlesbrough. I think it was New Year's Eve, 2016. And we were a goal down, and we just played this route one ball, and Ibrahimovic just nodded it down for Martial, who buried it. And I think that when it comes to games that we're chasing, as you said, Champions League, games where, they're more open, I think someone like Ibrahimovic, with his experience and his height and his physicality, it gives us another option. I mean, I've always said about Fellaini that he's not this fantastic footballer on the ball, but what he can do, or we can bring to the team from a physical presence, especially in the air, you can't really put a price on it, can you? He's bailed us out quite a few times in the past, and I think Ibrahimovic has got that in his locker. He's taken like a 200-grand pay cut as well, from what reports say anyway. So he's obviously wants to stay at the club, and we've seen on social media his presence gives that extra buzz in the dressing room, doesn't it?
Well, I would say his presence would anyway. When you're 6 foot plenty and you're the size he is, he'll definitely always have a presence. Even if he's quiet, you'd know he's going to be sitting there anyway. And yes, you are right in what you're saying. He does add that bit, but I always like to believe, as big as he is, that if you said that to him, I think he'll be a little bit upset, because he sees his game more than just being a big man.
Right.
And he adds, there is more to him. And I think when you've got someone who's as big as him who's sitting there, and as Rhodri will tell you, and you're playing in a defensive position, you think to yourself, you'll look at something and you'll take the easy option by just putting a big ball in the air and hoping that he can win it. It's like a get out. Yeah. And I think that became a problem last season. It was too easy. It was too easy an option just to put the ball in the air. And we've seen it a little bit different now with Lukaku, who isn't the same, who isn't that dominating, who's not as good in the air. Even though he's a big fella, he's not as good in the air as what Ibrahimovic is, or maybe even players maybe smaller, because he hasn't got that desire to go and do it. So United are playing more football and breaking through midfield, rather than going from back to front, or going from in positions where Pogba was sitting deep and trying to hit Ibrahimovic in the box in the air. So they've stopped doing that, and they're looking better for it. Pogba's looking better for it. So I think they've changed their style, because Ibrahimovic isn't playing for the better, because the results are showing that. And look at them being more clinical as well. And somewhere along the line, Ibrahimovic will come in and play because Mourinho will play him. And it'll be interesting then to see if the style changes from when he plays.
That's a very good thought there, Paul. Because I was about to ask Rod. I mean, Mourinho reckons that Ibrahimovic is going to be ready to play in January. So, given what Paul said about Ibrahimovic may not be happy to sit on the bench, do you think January is actually the perfect time? Because at least it's halfway through the season, not at the beginning.
Well, yeah, you've obviously got to assess where we're at. But if he does come in and we're still performing at a high calibre, this is where Mourinho's got to be strong. He's got to be brave, and he's got to be on the bench because, even though he's great at what he did last year, very easier to defend against because if defenders aren't worried about him going over the top. They're not creating space like Lukaku would by running people into space they don't want to go. That creates more space for the midfielders to play in. So with Ibrahimovic, it becomes more easy to defend. I'm sure if you asked central defenders who would rather defend against Lukaku or Ibrahimovic, I'm sure they'd say Ibrahimovic. So it's just more Mourinho's got to be brave. It's a great addition to the squad. His stature alone and his experience to help the young lads through. But, if Lukaku's still performing, Ibrahimovic has got to start on the bench.
That's right. That's right. Well, Mourinho hinted that could be it for United's spending activity in the transfer market this season, although there's a rumour that United made an offer for Alexis Sanchez. Apparently it was £75 million plus 15 million in add-ons. Paul, is this something that we have to take with like a pinch of salt, or do we just sit there and think, well, Arsenal aren't going to sell their best player to us again, are they?
No, they're not. I think if that was to happen, then if anyone was to find Arsene Wenger, an Arsenal fan, they'll actually go and make a decision themselves how they're going to deal with it. And it wouldn't be the fact of asking for him to be sacked. I think they'd want to wipe him out if he was allowed that to happen again. I think you can look at two things, a pinch of salt really, is when Mourinho says that his transfer business is done. I don't think you can really trust him in that way. You just think, just a moment, you just don't know which way he's going to go. On the other side of it, you look at it and you say to yourself, 75 million and plus add-ons, and then you ask, where is he going to fit in? And you look at his temperament, Sanchez, you know that he's going to want to be playing every minute. You know that if he starts a game, you can't take him off because he's one of he hates being taken off in games. He wants to be involved in it. Is that the kind of man player that Mourinho can handle? Mourinho likes to control people. Everyone say yes sir, no sir. So Sanchez might be a little bit too much to handle for him and not what he wants. So I think it's a shot in the dark. I really do think it's just a shot in the dark. Easy to do now because there's so many media outlets. Just to put something on their internet site or whatever, a rumour, and then people build around it or people shoot it down in flames. No problem. Many years ago, you couldn't do that you wouldn't do it unless you had facts because you'd be shot down by your peers.
That's right. That's right. Well, they're saying that Sanchez could actually move to Man City. So, given what you said about Mourinho wanting to control certain players, how do you think Guardiola would utilise him? Because they've got Aguero, they've got Gabriel Jesus. They're playing this 3-5-2 or 5-3-2 system at the moment. How would he fit?
Well, it would just fit in there because at the moment in time, he might show a little bit more passion than what you're seeing from City. Because City at the moment, yes, they've got 2 wins and a draw, but they've just been nothing about them at the moment. It's all mix and match, a team of individuals, and Sanchez going there will maybe take away a lot of this tiki-tico they're playing at the moment in time because that's the only way. We had the Spanish tiki-taka. We've got the tiki-tico at the moment with City. I've seen 3 games and it's been awful. You just don't know what's going to happen next. And when you're trying to play Sterling up front and saying he's going to score you more goals than Aguero, then there's a serious problem. I think City fans will be thinking the same. So Sanchez will just go in there and does what he does best. He'll work hard and he will grind people down. He'll end up with maybe more assists than De Bruyne if he was going to be there because of what he does. And he'll score goals and he'll make things happen. And that's what City need at the moment. You need something that a little bit uglier to what they're trying to do now at the moment. They're trying to look like a team wearing pretty dresses, and it just isn't working at the moment.
Yeah, it's a great analogy to use. Rod, apparently Arsenal are after Martial. Now, on the flip side, whereas we got Wenger not wanting to sell to United, I actually can't see Jose letting him go yet, especially to Arsenal. Can you?
No, not at all. Jose Mourinho's like Alex Ferguson, I'm sure. Why would you sell one of your top players to one of your competitors? It just doesn't make sense to me. So I just think that one's absolute rubbish. Why would you get rid of him? It just makes sense. So I just think that's a load of rubbish, to be honest.
Fair enough. Fair enough. What do you make of Martial's attitude, don't you? Because at the beginning of the season, in fact, the beginning of last season, there was that big hoo-ha about the shirt number. You know, he didn't want the number 11. Ibrahimovic got the number 9, and apparently his brothers got involved, and it got a bit messy. But Mourinho questioned his temperament as well and how he wasn't working hard enough. Have you seen a different side to him this season?
Well,
yeah, he's come off the bench, and he's come off the bench twice and scored. I even saw him smile as well, which is a little bit of a rare one, by the way, for him to do that. And there is going to be a little bit of a change in him, but we've got to remember, you know, we're still just coming out of August, so there's still quite a way to go. So if that devil's inside of him, then it's going to be there. It's always going to be there. And when he's not happy, you know, his whole body language shows that he's not happy. Is he always going to be on the bench? If he's always going to be coming off the bench and becoming like a little bit of an Ole Gunnar, he's not going to be happy. He's going to want to play. He's going to want to move. He's going to want to move because he wants the opportunity to play regularly. Has he earned the right to play regularly? No, he hasn't. Last season, he never earned the right to play regularly. You can bitch, you can knock on doors and say, I want to be playing. But when you get the opportunity, you've got to go out there and take it. It doesn't mean that you have to play well, but you have to look committed and you have to show a desire that you're happy, you're there, and you're going to go and take the opportunity. In my opinion, he never done that last season. Didn't do it enough. Never showed enough. So he started the game, and if he starts the next game, he's got to do it because the one thing that keeps you in a team is consistency. And you've got to show form, and you've got to show appetite, especially for Mourinho. And if he does that, he hasn't got a problem. But you know what I've seen of him, the best I've seen of him was coming off the bench in those first 2 games and scoring those goals. And that's the best I've seen him since he's been at Old Trafford.
Absolutely. What do you reckon, Rod?
Yeah, concur what Paul said. He's had a good start to the season. He's come off the bench. He scored 2 goals. He started Saturday. He's just got to go on, and his attitude's got to get a little bit better. His demeanour's got to get a little bit better. You know, as long as it doesn't affect anyone else, because he does look like, you know, he's got the world of problems on his shoulders sometimes. You know, he's at Manchester United. Smile a bit more. You know, and just enjoy yourself. Just be a bit more happy. He just looks like he's sad. I don't know if that's his demeanour or that's his personality, but you know, he's at Manchester United. Be a bit more happier, and you know, you might play a bit more. But no, I just think he's still a young lad. So I think Mourinho's trying to test him with the stuff that he's saying, and obviously been speaking to him in-house as well to see what his reaction is. So, you know, it's 3 games in, it's been a good reaction. He's come off the bench, he scored 2 goals, and he did okay Saturday. So, you know, it's a good start. He just needs to, like Paul says, he needs to get that consistency in his game. Once he gets that consistency in his game, he'll play every week.
Yeah. But see, this thing, he's what, 21, 22 right now, and we saw what he can do. I mean, his debut season for us was fantastic. There was the 2 goals at Southampton, the debut goal against Liverpool, one at Sunderland where he dinked it over the keeper. He's got that in his locker. And as you said, he's at Manchester United. Why don't you play with a smile on your face? But
like I said, he's a young kid. It's difficult. He's French. He's come to a different country. Some people take a lot more time to adapt. So, you know, we've just got to give him time. He's still, like I say, he's still a young lad. But once he gets that consistency in his game, which he's got the ability and the quality to go on and even get better than he is right now. So, you know, like I say, he's a young kid. We just need to give him a lot more time, and hopefully he gets a little bit better.
Absolutely. And this might sound like a question that doesn't, it's like a rhetorical question, so to speak. What's the fundamental difference between Martial and Rashford, apart from the physical frame? Because obviously Martial is much more stockier, let's put it that way.
You mean the difference as players?
Both, yeah. But in terms of size and ability.
Well, I look at football today. You can be whatever size you want, but since it doesn't matter how big you are, you're always going to fall over when people touch you. So size doesn't come into it anymore. They build up muscles, but still fall down easy.
And Heskey
Um,
being one of them.
yeah, but I think you're looking at it now. Is that obviously Rashford has gone out and done a bit of work over the summer, and you've seen the way he is, and he has added a little bit to him. Martial is just, when you look at him, you see there's more technical ability with him, but the only thing he hasn't done, he doesn't change his game up when he starts games. And I think there's been a little bit of difference to how he is now to what he was over previous seasons. Rashford has definitely stepped forward, but I think he's a player who would, if he could get a good run through the middle and play there, knowing that the manager says to him, right, I'm going to play you as a number 9, and I'm going to give you a run, go out and enjoy it. And doesn't matter what he does in that 190 minutes, he knows he's got another 90 minutes after. I think you'll see a different Marcus Rashford. And you'll see then centre halves who will drop even deeper because they'll be so scared of his early pace. Because those 3 yards, like Rodri's brother, he used to kill people. You'll just see people just virtually be trying to block him off to stop his first 3 yards because of the fact of he's that quick. Yes, Lukaku can run past people, but he's not quick off the mark as what Rashford is. And I think even Martial could do that as well, that role as well. But they've got their own strengths and weaknesses. Martial is, the strength of him technically, his strength is technically better than Rashford, and he's a better finisher as well. When he gets in that 1-against-1 situation, he is a cool customer when it comes to putting it past the goalkeeper.
Yeah. His close control impresses me most. I mean, we saw that goal pre-season where he laid it on for Jesse Lingard, and it wasn't a fluke. I mean, okay, he got a bit of luck with a bobble, but he's got that in his locker. This is something that you tend to see players like Messi, players with low centre of gravity, like your Catholas and whatnot, being able to control the ball really well, like your Modric's. But he's a big guy, and for him to have that ability, it's a great gift to have.
Yeah, we keep talking big, but I think we have to say now the average height of footballers has gone up massively over the last few years, absolutely massively. And the technique in the big fellas, it just looks so impressive because how big they are, but I think it's quite natural now in that sense. And Rhodri made a good point about saying Martial and how it's difficult. He's a young boy and he's coming from France and he needs time to adapt. And that is a valid point because and all of a sudden you come into a foreign country and you're in a dressing room and it's very difficult. But if you're playing regularly and you're in that team, you're building relationships, people are coming to you and things are going well. But if you're not playing, you feel a little bit left out because you're not there in the focal point. People are looking at you and straight away you're mentally thinking maybe I'm not doing well, and people are kind of saying, but their manner's completely different. So it's a difficult adjustment for him to that, and that doesn't help when you feel like a spare leg and you're not playing regularly, especially at a club like Manchester United. Trust me, you want to be in that 11 week in, week out, and it makes life so much easier. Even for me to come from the south to the north, it was difficult. I found it difficult then when I did it because I didn't have everyone around me. So when you're going through those early bits, you don't know anybody. It's tough. So you come over the water and you're doing it, and you definitely don't know anybody. It is tough. And that's mostly why he wasn't smiling. I persecuted him on that one about his smiling. But the truth is he didn't know anybody at that time. And if he had been playing, things would have been different because that would have taken away a lot of the elements of him feeling lonely if he was in that 11 week in, week out.
That's a fair point. But I guess he's got Pogba there and Lukaku. They speak the same language. So that must help. And I know that he's got a really good relationship with Rashford and Lingard as well. So again, it's that camaraderie again. You see him at full time when even David De Gea is getting involved with secret handshakes. I don't know what's going on here.
Winning games changes everything. If you can't be like those lads are doing that when you're winning games, it means it's never going to happen. And winning games makes such a difference. That winning feel and that you're unbeatable. It makes such a big difference in football. It only lasts, if you're lucky, you're a big club, it can go on and on and on. But it only happens a few times during a season for certain clubs. All that happens because how you feel when it's been a good result, but more important, a great performance as well. That is a great win double.
Absolutely, absolutely. And one more thing before I let you guys go, it's obviously international break. When we come back, we've got Stoke City away. Hopefully, we won't have any injuries. How do you see that game going? Because Arsenal really struggled there, as we saw the other week. How do you think I'll go, Rod?
Well, if we look at Arsenal's characters and our characters, like Paul said before, they'd be looking in the tunnel against Arsenal thinking we've got a chance here. They'll be looking in the tunnel against Man United thinking we've got a game here. So, they've got the characters, they've got the personnel to go to Stoke, and it'll be a tough game. But we've got high spirits at the moment, so stamp our authority, get the ball down. Obviously it's not going to be a December or November cold night in Stoke. It's going to be August, September. It's going to be nice and warm. So it's not as bad as it could be, I suppose. So I still expect this to be a difficult game, but I still expect us to get a result.
Yeah, Paul, it's a different Stoke to what we're used to seeing with Tony Pulis. I mean, Mark Hughes likes to get the ball down and play it. Obviously, there's that physical element because that's what Mark Hughes is about. But how do you think that game will go?
It would go to United. If you asked me the question last season and season before and the 2 seasons before that, then I would be a little bit negative about it and maybe throwing in, take a point from it. But you look at United now and they're built to go there and to out-football Stoke, but more than anything, is the way Sparky is, and Sparky hasn't taken away that element too far away from Stoke. There is that physical side, and United could start with a Fellaini in midfield with a Mata. They could go and do that and just look at it and say, we're ready to take what you throw at us when you try and get the ball in the box. On the other side of it, there's a football element there as well. So I expect United to win the game reasonably comfortable, to be perfectly honest. The onus is on Mark Hughes, how he's going to stay in the game. And it'd be different. And I think even Sparky, as much as he loves to, go out there and beat Manchester United, as he's got every right to want to do that, is that he knows this is going to be a different Manchester United to what he's faced in the last 4 seasons.
That's right. Well, guys, thank you ever so much for your time. It's been absolutely fantastic talking to you guys about United. Rod, I'm going to speak to you on Tuesday, but do you want to give our listeners your Twitter handle?
Yeah, it's Rod James Giggs.
Excellent. And Paul, what are you doing with yourself lately? Are you working on TV at the moment?
Yeah, I'm still going into Malaysia, but I've been coming home quite a lot recently, I think, as you know, and I've been dipping my toe in doing stuff at home now because I'm contemplating maybe coming back. My boys are back in the UK now studying, so I'm contemplating coming back now. 6,500 miles away now seems a bit ridiculous at the moment in time. I thought I could deal with it, but I think I'd like just to maybe be back at home.
Yeah, you clocking up the air miles though?
Yep, I am. The only problem is I get a certain favour for one airline. The other airline I want to use, I want to use all the time. I'm having to chip in a bit more for it, so I'm taking a cheaper option at the moment in time, and it's not really the air miles I want.
That's fair enough. Well, Paul, thank you ever so much for your time. Really, really appreciate
Thank you.
it. Do you want to give our listeners your...
Okay, cheers. Do you know what? I'm trying to think. Oh, yeah, it is, yeah. It's at the Real Paul Parker 2.
There you go, the Real Paul Parker. Wonderful. Well, guys, we're on Twitter. You can follow us at Shoot the Defence. We have a Facebook group page, so feel free to join in the debates. Until next time, take care.